I'm DeltaSauce, a digital artist based in Dallas. I use AI storytelling and fragments of the past to build new worlds. I would have to say that my first exposure to artwork has been because of my dad. My dad was a big fan of film and also did a lot of woodworking in the back garage. And for me, I got inspired by this idea that you can create new worlds with just your bare hands and a bit of imagination. And I fell in love with it ever since. I fell in love with this idea of just creating something out of nothing, and that idea that you can turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. I've always wanted to be a film director, and I look at the art that I'm doing now as a way of telling a story and being that film director using AI. Before AI, I was doing a little bit of photography here and there, and for me, it was very much just wanting to go down this rabbit hole of exploration, something to express myself creatively. One of the reasons why I got so deeply into collage, and I was really inspired by so many others in the space that were doing collage back in 2021, and that sort of like segued into AI as a whole. I wanted to be able to utilize my photography in these early AI models and be able to manipulate them in a way to get these new outputs that were vastly different, more surreal, more abstract. And I really did fall in love with this idea of using AI to explore what I would call this latent space that allowed you to dive deeper into your body of work, into the topics that you wanted to talk upon. You get to be this explorer in this infinite sandbox, and the only thing that is stopping you is your own creativity and imagination. And like I've always said, it feels like I am this explorer. I was born too late to explore the world, but born too early to explore the stars. But here I am, I get to explore latent space in its full capacity, and nothing is in my way but myself. At the end of the day, a lot of people could pick these tools up and utilize these tools and create these visuals, but without the story, these artworks, these outputs start to fall flat, and you start to ask yourself, why are you creating? Why are you going in this direction? I wanted to have this darker tone with this collection and sort of have this more mature narrative that I think I was able to execute quite well. For me, feed exists within this world of a surveillance state. I feel as though that we often look at nostalgia through these rose-tinted glasses, and as we get older, these glasses start to chip and break down, and we start to see the reality of the past and the reality of the world that we currently exist in. And I was very much inspired by this sort of digital artifacting that came with displaying digital artwork on these older television sets, and sort of the outputs and the look of found footage, as well as old video game dithering on these screens and monitors, that I really wanted to explore that sort of narrative of like, what does the world look like when you put it through these old television sets? The workflow for this collection was vastly different from a lot of my older bodies of work, because I started to develop and create my own custom models based on the vast amount of imagery that I've been able to create over the last 4 years. Prompting still played a very prominent role with this collection, as I like to utilize other languages such as Klingon, Elvish, or Japanese when it comes to prompting, because I feel like there's a lot of latent space to explore within these models that are usually outside the native tongue, such as English. And I feel like it's an underutilized way of exploring the models that I feel a lot of people are missing out on. Another important aspect in the creation process has always been post-processing for me, and I took that to another level with this collection. Since this collection is 70 pieces in totality, I was able to put more time and energy into each of the outputs when it comes to color correction and fixing up aspect ratios and any of the other smaller details, because it ties back into my love of collaging photography and my love of just being hands-on with the artwork itself. Within these darker topics, there's a lot of branching storylines that create these kind of sub-narratives that I feel like are very important to the storytelling aspect of this collection, that I really hope people, end up looking and digging into. there's this one story of this figure climbing these infinite stairs and finally reaching the top, and then there's these branching storylines. One is this figure jumping and falling to his doom, and another one is of them ascending to a higher plane. And I feel that story is so universal between so many people. There is also another narrative within the collection as well that kind of deals with addiction, especially when it comes to the computer screen. The first piece in that set is titled Addiction. It's this little baby staring at the screen, and then you start to see this person's life and them progressing into this sort of dopamine state where they're addicted to the screen and they're looking for that rush. And then you start to see their life in these sort of slide-like reels. It means the world to be able to talk about this artwork on such a deep level, and to have other people feed their own stories and their own narratives into this body of work feels like this natural progression when it comes to my nostalgia. Getting to work with Alejandro and Fellowship as a whole has been a phenomenal experience, and I've learned quite a bit, especially on the curation side. We were able to curate this collection down from about 150 pieces to 70 without breaking the narrative behind the work or it feeling too heavy on too many pieces. That is an invaluable skill and process, as well as the art history side. I've learned so much just getting to work with Alejandro, and it makes me want to go out and learn more about art history, pick up more books, read more. To grow as an artist is to be able to understand where you're lacking in skills and being able to pick up on those skills and develop those skills over time. And I've been able to learn so much over the past few months just working with Alejandro and the team.